Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I want to thank everybody for their time. I know it's a busy time of the year and everybody has multiple places to be. There's a lot of events on campus specifically today. So I thank you for prioritizing this event. Scholarship and our faculty are key to the growth of the college and our students, and so thank you for doing that. For those of you who participated and submitted your work, thank you for doing that as well. Your scholarship is important to us. And so I want to thank you and welcome for joining us today. The Lehman Teaching and Learning Center and the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs have partnered today to bring forth the annual celebration of faculty excellence in research and creative works. I would be remiss if I didn't thank those who were also part of the efforts to did the heavy lifting. So my colleagues in the Office of the Provost, stand up if you're here or wave a hand, say thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is an incredibly complicated event to put forth. Not this part. This social gathering is wonderful. This is the easy part. Collecting all your work, putting forth this presentation, vetting all of your artifacts. Garcia Johnson Stapleton, who's not here today, she is our creative person who does all of the wonderful work on the background, so I want to thank her today. And Beba Alvarado, thank you for your help. I appreciate it very much. And for my colleagues in the Center of Teaching and Learning, thank you for joining us and thank you for helping. And before I hand off the mic, I just wanted to introduce our interim Associate Dean, Karen Beck, who will be our MC today. Feel free to...
I'm so happy to hear that I can go back to Carmen Hall.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I totally introduced her in her former role. I'm so sorry. Did I do that? That's the nervousness.
But this is really good.
Associate Provost. Sorry.
This is really good because Kenneth told me before, if I get a laugh in the first 30 seconds, I'm good. We did it. We did it, Allison. 5 seconds. So, hi, I'm Karen Beck. I'm the interim associate provost of this wonderful institution, Lehman College, and I'm here to just lead through the event, so I'm not going to talk much. But I want to just say quickly that the celebration of faculty excellence in research, scholarship, and creative works, and it's really important for us that we emphasize all three all the time, is an annual campus-wide celebration honoring the exceptional research, scholarship, and creative achievements of our esteemed faculty, and it shines a spotlight on the exceptional research, of our faculty across all disciplines. It is a chance for the Lehman community, staff and faculty alike, to come together and honor and celebrate the power of inquiry, the magic of creativity, and the unwavering dedication that drives faculty excellence at Lehman College. So this magic event is about to happen now, and it is my honor to introduce my boss, Provost Jorge Sivapuras, to greet all of you with a few words.
Thank you, Karen. Let me move over here. Welcome everyone. It's a true honor and pleasure and privilege to be here with you. This is my first. There you go. This is my first participation as provost of Lehman College in this very, very, very critical event, this celebration, which we are celebrating in many forms and ways. One of them, and I want to share this information that Allison gave me, this is the largest number of faculty registrants in the Faculty Scholarly Works video to date, with 92 submissions. So, and among those 92, there are 6 phenomenal presentations that you will enjoy today, and they represent a very, very diverse set of scholarship, of research, of creativity, and the heart of Lehman College. I think what you will see here is not only superb representation of most of our disciplines, but most importantly, the commitment that our faculty represent. And they are representatives of your respective schools. So I am delighted to be a participant. And I am delighted that my associate provost is serving as the Masters of Ceremony. I also want to thank Alison, Beba, the CTL team, and everyone, the Multimedia Center folks who put this event together. It might seem like a relatively small gathering. It actually is a lot of work behind the scenes. And I don't think we dedicated time to recognize those who sacrifice behind the scenes to make sure that these events flow so well and are delivered with excellence. So without further ado, I will pass it back to our dearly beloved Master of Ceremony. Thank you. Enjoy.
Well, I'm standing here, so let's make this easy. So we have representatives from all academic units, the schools, I wanted to make sure I don't do it this way. Okay, so I do it again. All academic units, the library, and the 5 schools. So our first speaker today is Juan Jesús Payan, Associate Professor in the Department of Languages and Literatures, which happens to be my department. Juan Jesús.
Where? Who took the clicker? Where's the clicker? Well, thank you. It sounds fine, right? So while we are in search of the lost clicker, perfect. So this, if I just click, it's gonna start, right? Oh my God. Wow. Sorry, I'm disturbed. So I would like to start by giving a big shout out to all the organizers of this event. Thank you for making this possible. This is incredible. I don't know if you think about it. And I would like to single out the person of Alison Abreu, who is amazing and has been extremely patient with all my anxiety attacks for this presentation. Thank you. Come on, yeah. I would also like to thank Teresita Levy and Oscar Martin for, among the many people they could have thought of, they proposed me. There are so many people deserving this opportunity, so thank you so much. I will try to be as fast as I possibly can. If not, you just tell me, Perfect. So, I work on the fantastic. The presentation I have for you today is entitled, Who Tells Your Story? But I would like to start by doing something a little strange. I want you to look at this map. And I want you to think about this. Regardless of where you are in the planet, we all have our watches, our time, in sync with one point on Earth, Greenwich. It's kind of wild. Think about it. It's kind of wild. And interestingly, there used to be other meridians or prime meridians or points of reference for time, like the one in Paris. Why do we have Greenwich and Paris? Hello, colonialism. It had to happen. I work on 19th century literature. It's going to happen. You know that. And interestingly, when we think about colonialism, we think about taking lands, expropriating resources, trafficking people. We think about racism, slavery, genocide. But we never think about how colonialism has shaped the way we see the world and the way we tell the story, our stories. So, first of all, before I go any further, I want to clarify that when I say fantastic, it's not just fantasy. It's not just unicorns. Because the fantastic was something very specific, was a very specific type of supernatural story, a story or aesthetic representation. If you haven't heard about this, it's because it's essentially the French prime meridian. That we don't know about it because it doesn't touch us. We have a different one, which is the Gothic. Sounds familiar, right? So what happened is that in 2010, I thought, I love fantastic stories. I love supernatural stories. I imagine many of you do too. And I was surprised to realize that I knew almost nothing about the fantastic in Spain, my own country. I didn't know anything. How was that even possible? So I started digging, and what I found was a number of things that are kind of shocking. Number one, people said that Spain had no roots for the fantastic, and that the only way we had that was by imitating foreign models. Therefore, what we had to do when studying the fantastic was tracing imitation. And then, of course, we had another rule, which is those who did not imitate foreign models the right way did not fully understand the genre. They didn't have enough literary competence. So it was a lost situation. And on top of that, the ultimate conclusion was that the fantastic was a failure in Spain. Now, think about this. So many are from different countries or from different roots. Change Spain for any of your countries. It works. It's not by chance. It works. It's prejudice. And many of you love art and might think, hey, how is that Spain does not have fantastic art? Don't you have Goya, the artist, not the food? I know you. I met you before. Well, Goya didn't work because he died right before France decided the beginning of the fantastic, which was 1828. Goya arrived a little too late. So what I decided to do in my research was to think differently, because we need a different preposition when we think about our own cultures that have been, in a sense, pushed forward, pushed away from the narrative. We need to start talking about, instead of imitation, recreation. Instead of influence, reappropriation. Instead of thinking of lack of competence, agency. And instead of thinking about failure, difference. Because when we change the way we see it, we don't not only see the reflection, we see the refraction, how the stimulus from other places became something ours, different colors. And in the case of Spain, that led to very beautiful literature and very beautiful art connected with the Islamic past, with the Baroque tradition of Don Quixote, with the stories that combine religion and the supernatural, like Don Juan, the Don Giovanni. But we have forgotten that, because at some point, it was decided that Spain was not even part of Europe. Think about that. Spain was not even part of Europe, of the white Europe, which led also to signs like this. We serve whites only, no Spanish or Mexican. This is a continuation of the same discourse. So this is one thing that I show my students on the first day I teach 19th century art. You might notice some things. I always ask my students, and they tell me the following. What do you notice? They have weird hair. That's the first thing that they always say. Can you believe it? All the things. They also say they look old and they're pretty much dead. Okay, that is true. But ultimately they arrive to this thing. They realize that there's gender and race that is amiss here. They're all men. They're all white. But one thing that we don't notice is that all of these people come from a very specific point in space, a prime meridian from which we tell stories. And outside of that, there's no fantastic literature. There's not even music, even classical music. And that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Nari Kim, Professor of Economics and Business.
Right. Hello, everyone. I first want to thank everyone that makes this opportunity. It's my great honor to be here. I don't really have that awesome images and everything, just like prior presentations. I feel like I'll try to make it funny. Okay, let me try. Okay, so I'm an assistant professor from School of Business, and today I'm going to talk about bad companies and how they really look better, even though they are really bad. Actually, bad companies has been my main research topic, even though I'm not with them. So let's start. The title is Impression Management and Corporate Communications After Financial Restatement. There are, companies really do bad things. There are many other types of wrongdoings, but I focus on earnings manipulation. I believe we all know what that means. It is really considered as an intentional action by the firm, so it's not really like an error or mistake. It's really, they really manipulate their earnings with some intention. Well, we all know Enron's scandal in 2003. That's the most famous example. And as we can all imagine, the consequences are pretty negative. Some companies get bankruptcy, some had like declined performance, and mostly the loss of reputation, loss of legitimacy is a negative consequences that I focus on this paper. Because of that, companies really take impression management tactics strategy to repair their damaged reputation. Well, there are so many ways for companies to manage their impression, but this paper I focused on how they really use communications, how they really communicate with stakeholders to look better, even though they are bad. Prior studies, they really talk about how actively companies use communication when they are in a bad situation. Some companies really use strategic noise by providing confounding information at the same time of the event to distract stakeholders. Based on this background, first hypothesis is about how companies really manage their impression with the communication. And then I focused on companies' press release because all the companies have full control over the presentation and content of press release. So that's really from companies' intentional communication. And they really use press release as a communication channel to mitigate reputational threat. And this study, I looked at volume and tone of communication after companies' restatement. The first hypothesis, when I said volume of communication, that's like how much information the company want to share with the public. So other papers found companies tend to use longer annual report or greater contents in conference call presentation when they are in a bad situation, negative situation. And also psychology literature found positively framed information forms favorable impression and is more persuasive. And based on that, I proposed that firms with financial restatement will issue greater volume of communication after their restatement with more positive tone. The second hypothesis is about communication variations. Not all companies use the same amount of communication after restatement, and if that's the case, I thought that companies' prior impression make them change their impression management activity. And I focus on social performance, which is companies' prior character impression. So it's really about companies' value, their goals, and their behavior intention. And examples are companies engaging in environmentally friendly behaviors or their donation to minorities in society. So it's somewhat different from how capable they are in financial ways, right? And financial restatement is a character-related event. Again, it's intentional action taken by top managers to gain private gain, right? And then I thought that if company had positive social performance prior to restatement, they were gonna perceive greater pressure to engage in impression management because the earnings manipulation violate their prior impression with the stakeholders. So the second hypothesis is companies with better prior social performance will issue greater volume of communication with more positive tone. The third one, how investors react to companies' effort. And the question here is, do volume and tone of communication work? And then I hope it works. So I propose investors will positively react to the use of communication. And the last one is the theoretical mechanism for this image repair behavior. And then the prior discussion raised a question like, if company use communication as an impression management, would that be really for rebuilding trust with stakeholders, or is that really to deceive stakeholders? So we are not really sure. Are bad companies are really bad, or they're getting better? So I focused on two components of communication. One is clarity, and the second is transparency in their communication. And I would like to support the rebuilding hypothesis. So I propose that companies with restatement will increase their clarity and transparency in their communication by decreasing vague expressions in their communication, and also by avoiding any period of silence by issuing regular communications with stakeholders. Well, I tried, because of the time limit, I tried to minimize my method part. The sample size was 464, and then here are the findings. All the hypotheses were supported except for H3B, which is about the tone of communication on investors' reaction. There was no impact, but other than that, all were supported. Takeaways of this study. The first one, I found companies really actively use the communication as an impression management tactic. Second, prior impression in character varies their use of communication. The third one, they use communication as a way to rebuild trust with stakeholders. However, their effort does not really work all the time, especially tone didn't really work with the stakeholders. Done? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kim. This was pretty impressive. And now our next presentation. For our next presentation, I am welcoming Yasmin Morales-Alexander, Associate Professor of Early Childhood Education.
Thank you. So for me, my presentation is a little different. It's titled The Personal is the Professional, Teaching to Unlearn, because what I do here has deeply personal roots. And so I can't speak about my scholarship and my research without kind of grounding it. Who are you? So I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, most likely because it spoke to my inner bossy spirit and sense of curiosity. So like, what are teachers to young children if not people that tell you what to do? And curiosity is at the heart of learning. But ultimately, what my curiosity led to is the revelation that if you're doing it right, it's really the students that tell the teachers what to do. So on I go with my little 6-year-old teacher self, living my best life in my best world, in the Bronx, as the daughter of Puerto Rican migrants, raised in the shadow of Yankee Stadium, diehard Yankee fans, but in my house, Roberto Clemente was king. The borough of, the birth of hip hop, and so it was definitely a time of a lot happening in New York City, and the Bronx specifically, salsa, Bronx is burning, bilingual. So context matters, right? But the problem is that if children don't see themselves, reflected in the curriculum, or when the images that they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in the society in which they are a part. And so beliefs associated with these lessons are dangerous, long-lasting, because we develop in the context, we develop our identities based on the interactions that we have with our families, communities, teachers. And so our social and professional identities formed, I can't see you, sorry, formed and influenced by our cultural frameworks within this racialized society do not develop in isolation. So we are taught explicitly and by default how to enter spaces and be in particular spaces. And for multilingual Latinx, Black people of color, Black indigenous people of color, we also learn which spaces to avoid. We learn who and what matters and who and what doesn't. But there's a toll that one pays for being a person of color, and if you add to that class, citizenship status, multilingualism, and by that I mean not speaking English, gender, age, education, religion, etc., the more boxes that are checked, the higher the toll. Specifically in teacher prep programs, where in general, they overwhelmingly censor whiteness, faculty, white-centered curricula, policies, practices, essentially perpetuate a cycle of emotional, psychological, and intellectual harm to multilingual Latinx BIPOC teacher candidates. And as a result, teacher candidates often encounter marginalizing, culturally disaffirming experiences. They describe feelings of being excluded, segregated, displaced. There's no doubt that battling socially imposed and internalized racialized stereotypes is exhausting. And so I spent my time in my doctoral program researching Latino family engagement and bringing to the fore the salience of cultural context, all the while questioning whether or not I belonged in that space. And so, as an academic, what I learned was that my predominantly culturally and linguistically diverse students like me have internalized these deficit-laden tropes inherent in racist schooling experiences, impacting their identity development as people and sense of efficacy as early childhood educators. And what I thought was, if my brilliant, code-switching, passionate teacher candidates cannot readily see their own assets, how are they going to see the strengths that children, families, and communities bring to the table once they're in their own classrooms? So what I did was I revamped syllabi, course content, and instructional strategies for every course that I teach. Because I believe that in order to develop effective relationships based on mutual trust and respect with children, families, and communities, teachers need to understand who they are in relation to others within a broader cultural system from a strengths-based perspective. So I found myself essentially teaching them to unlearn. And by unlearning, I mean a disruptive process of liberation, transformation, that serves to question and challenge dominant social paradigms and knowledges. Teacher candidates' cultural knowledges, experiences, practices should be magnified, validated, leveraged as powerful constructs in the process of their own unlearning and the enhancement of their capacities to critically question normative schooling practices. And so that's exactly what I do. I center my students, their stories, their lives, their context. It's critical to professional identity development of teacher candidates because research shows that beliefs and attitudes strongly correlate to teachers' conscious or unconscious behaviors, influencing their teaching methods, classroom practices, levels of active helping, and passive neglect. So leading them to rediscover and revive suppressed and subjugated knowledges that might offer alternatives for thinking and understanding. So this video clip captures an acceptance speech for the Journal Article of the Year award that I received in 2022. But more importantly, I chose it because the takeaway here is what can happen when multilingual Latinx BIPOC learn to stop questioning their rightful place in the world, when they feel like they are a part of the school, academic culture, fit in, are accepted, and respected by others. This is what's at the heart of belonging, which is integral to one's identity.
Music, because I'm going to say what I need to say about this. Writing is really hard for me. Oftentimes, every time I embark on writing something, I lament to my best friend, I'm such a slow writer. And I say that over and over again, and one day she said to me, you're not a slow writer, you're a deep thinker. And that's what best friends do. Right, because when you're writing from the heart, it really does require deep thinking. especially when you're committed to helping others see what you know and feel viscerally. And I think that that's what that article captured. And so I thank you to the committee for confirming to me what I've known for a really long time, you know, where I belong. So thank you.
I'm not finished though. So, since I ain't going anywhere, because this is where I belong, my fervent hope for our students, I can't read that, so whoever's there can read it, 'cause I can't see it. But this is my fervent hope for our students. So. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Alexander Morales. Our next speakers will not be here, but we have a video. So our next speakers are Natasha Nurse Clarke, Associate Professor in Nursing, and Brenda Hernandez-Acevedo, Assistant Professor in Nursing. And we have a beautiful video.
2023 was a great year, and we were able to do some pretty fun and exciting studies, but the one that I'm most excited about is the one that I did with a colleague, Brenda Hernandez-Acevedo, and we did a study on virtual gaming simulation, and we wanted to see what was the impact on knowledge retention, satisfaction, self-confidence, and enjoyment when you add in gaming elements to a simulation. So this was a randomized control experimental study. 92 undergraduate pre-licensure nursing students participated in this activity, and these students were first year, second semester nursing students, or juniors in the college. We used two instruments. One was the Student Satisfaction and Self-Confidence and Learning Scale. That's a 13-item survey, and it measures, just like it says, student satisfaction and self-confidence. And we also used another tool called the Enjoy Scale. This one was a 25-item scale, and it measures things like pleasure, relatedness, competence, challenge, improvement, and engagement. We also included a demographic data form and a pre and a post test that tested students on the content, which was related to heart failure. So what were our findings? For the topic of knowledge retention, we saw that there was a statistically significant increase in overall test scores from pre-test to post-test. Now this was regardless of what group the students were in. It didn't matter whether they were in the experimental group or the control group, there was an increase in overall test scores among all students. And we kind of considered this to be a result of the fact that both groups got virtual gaming simulation. Some had a more enhanced version of it, but all of them had virtual gaming simulation, so we can see that that did have an impact on their learning. However, when it comes down to the biggest change in pre and post-test scores, that biggest change was seen in the experimental groups. So while both groups' scores increased, the scores of those in the experimental groups increased statistically significantly higher than those in the control group. In terms of enjoyment, there was not a significant difference in scores between the experimental group and the control group. However, there was one subscale, which was challenge/improvement, where there was a statistically significant difference. For the self-confidence and satisfaction with learning scale, the scores for participants in the experimental group were statistically significantly higher than those in the control group, meaning that those students found greater satisfaction and self-confidence after completing this intervention. So I've already discussed some of the highlighted findings, but what I would love to do now is just do a really quick demonstration of what this virtual gaming simulation looked like. So the simulation began with this kind of dramatic music that got the students into the groove of what this would be like. So again, this is an example of the sound effects that we used, and the control group did not have these sound effects. Also, the students were taken through a storyline. So they were meeting this nursing student named Isabel who's learning about heart failure. And their goal was to help Isabel get through nursing school. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So we have more sound effects throughout, and you can hear it's got that gamified sound.
Hello, good morning. I'm your nurse for today. My name is Nurse Maria Diaz, and I'm here to see how you're feeling this morning.
So as you can see here, the students watch this scenario, and then they press next and answer questions. The scenarios were acted out by standardized patients that we were able to hire using funds that we got from a grant, and we went to the New York Sim Center in Bellevue Hospital to have the standardized patients act out these different scenes. So now students had to answer questions, and let's just say they got an incorrect answer. So you can see it takes the students to a scenario where they can see pretty much the consequences of their actions. What happens if they chose that option? So if they got the incorrect answer, it would tell them, nope, that's not correct, you've got to start again. So then they click try again, and then they have to watch the scenario again and answer the same question. Now if they get the correct answer, again, they get to see a scenario, and then they're told whether their answer is correct or incorrect, and they also are given some feedback to show them why that was the correct answer. And then as they move forward, now you can see this progress bar, and it shows them how close they are to graduation. A couple nice features that we were able to add because of technology were things like laying over breath sounds, for instance, when the nurse was listening for the patient's breath sounds. And I'll show you an example of that. So we were able to just find sound clips on the internet of what normal or abnormal breath sounds might look like. And then you can see the next question is, can the student determine whether this is normal, is this abnormal? And then they would need to answer the question appropriately. Another fun thing we were able to do were some fun calculation questions as well. So for instance, in this example, students had to do a calculation, a dosage calculation question, and they had to enter the correct answer. And if they clicked on the correct answer, then they would see that it's correct, and again, continue to progress. And then at the end, when they got through everything, they were able to see that Isabel graduated from nursing school and that they were complete with their simulation. So that was a lot of fun. And as you can see here in this picture, we had a great day with our standardized patients. So thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to go through this highlighted project, and feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns that may arise.
I don't know how to do the winning music. I only can do do-do-doom. So I would like to do the winning one right now. So our next speaker, so thank you, Professors Nurse Clarke and Hernandez-Acevedo. And now our next speaker is Professor Victoria Dominguez, an assistant professor in anthropology. Oh, that is, oh, I am so sorry. Yes, so our next speakers are from the Center of Scholarship and Learning from the library. And they are Vanessa Arce, assistant professor and head reference librarian, and Michelle Ehrenpreis, assistant professor and instructor for electronic resource librarian.
Preference or side? Yeah, I'm okay here. Okay. That's fine. Hello, everyone.
Ooh, I think I have to stand on my tippy toes. Oh, well.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone who made this event possible, and thank you to Kenneth Schlesinger for nominating Vanessa and I to present today to represent the library. Improving a library FAQ, assessment and reflection of the first year's use. So a little bit of background. In the fall 2020, the Leonard Lief Library created a searchable online knowledge base known as FAQs. At the time, we offered chat reference, but the numbers were low, and with the library building being closed and classes being held online due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we thought that an online library FAQ would be useful in addition to chat reference. We also intended it to be an instructional support to students who were interested in learning more about the library services, and we also included demo videos in order to demonstrate these services as well. Now, because the resource was created rather quickly from a span of, really summer 2020 and then launched in fall 2020, we wanted to assess it during its first year of use in order to see how it was performing. So in order to assess the FAQ, we proposed the following research questions. What type of information are users looking for in the FAQ? And more importantly, are they finding the information that they seek? We hope that by answering these questions, we would be able to find ways that we can improve the knowledge base going forward, whether in terms of content and structure. So a little bit about our methods. Because we can access the search queries in the FAQ site, we went ahead and downloaded the first 2 semesters of use, that's fall 2020 and spring 2021, and conducted a content analysis of these queries. This resulted in us coding a total of 106 queries into 10 categories. Now, the platform also records the action that the user takes after searching within the FAQ site, and therefore we use this information to estimate the success rate of the FAQ. Specifically, therefore, queries that resulted on a user clicking on an FAQ after searching within the site were considered successful, and when the user did not click on an existing FAQ within the site after searching, those were considered unsuccessful. And now I'm going to pass it over to Vanessa, who will talk about some of our findings.
Yes, thank you, Michelle. So based on that measure of success, we determined that 49% of the queries resulted on the user clicking on an FAQ. So 49% success rate. We felt that was not too bad. Again, considering that we really did this in a hurry during the pandemic emergency. However, we realized that it actually could have been higher because when we looked at the queries and the actions that were taken, we noticed that there were some unsuccessful queries that actually had an existing answer in the FAQs. So when we looked more closely at these cases, we realized that there was a mismatch in the search terms, basically the terminology that was being used in the queries and in the FAQ. So for example, to illustrate that, we had a query for borrowed tablet, that the FAQ that we had about the college's loaner program that was instituted during the pandemic emergency would have answered, but the answer contained the terms device and laptop, but not tablet. So the search was very specific. That's one of the things we learned. So this taught us that we need to think of the terminology potentially used by users of the FAQs and use as many synonyms and related terms, both in the text of the questions and also in a feature that the platform has where we can tag questions with keywords. So that was one of the things we needed to improve. In terms of the type of information that users were seeking in the FAQs, that's a chart of basically all the categories and the amounts. So we'd like to draw your attention to the first 3. I don't know if you can see them from here. But access was the most popular. Around 30% of queries were access-related questions. These were defined as questions about accessing library materials or resources, which, again, not surprising, COVID. The second most popular category were instructional queries, which we defined as questions about topics that we would normally cover in a library workshop, such as how do I find some sources on my topic, what is peer review, etc. And then the third category, which was really close, it was almost like a tie for second place, were what we termed non-library questions. These mostly pertained to other departments on campus, such as financial aid or IT. So some of the conclusions that we derived from these findings was, again, that the dominance of access query was not surprising due to the pandemic closure. The data coincided with a period where the library building was completely closed. As mentioned earlier, we concluded that we needed to work on improving the discoverability of individual FAQs by using a wider variety of terms and keyword tagging. We were pleased to see there were a good number of instructional queries, which to us confirmed the potential of the FAQ as an instructional tool. And finally, we found that the prevalence of non-library questions was a little surprising. This could also be explained by the fact that the campus was closed during COVID. But beyond that, it is also possible that there is a general perception of the academic library as a source of campus-wide information. And actually, this idea led to a whole other research project focusing on the presence of those types of questions in academic libraries, in chat reference in academic libraries. And spoiler alert, it was not COVID. Yes. So again, this was an assessment project, so the purpose of the study was to find practical applications on how we could improve this resource. So as a result of the assessment, we have been more mindful of the need to include terminology that users might use when we draft new FAQs, again, to improve discoverability. And then based on the findings, we decided also to include some information about other campus services in the library FAQs. And as a result of that, we have strengthened our communications with other campus units at the college, which is a good thing. Finally, the categories created in the analysis facilitate the long-term management of the knowledge base because grouping FAQs by category has made it easier for us to update and add new ones as needed. Overall, this assessment was a worthwhile effort, and we'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professors Ehrenpreis and Arce. And now, the only speaker announced twice tonight, Professor Victoria Dominguez, Assistant Professor in the Department of Anthropology.
Hello. Thank you all for being here, and I'm very happy to be presenting. I'm going to be presenting today a little bit on some of the general research that's done in my lab, kind of through the context of a paper that I put out with some colleagues recently on the prevalence of drifting osteons distinguishing human bone, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I'll clarify that. So the goal of most of the research that's done in my lab is we're interested primarily in skeletal biology. And really, we're particularly interested in bone microstructure. So what does bone look like at the microscopic scale? Why do we care? There's a bunch of different reasons for which we do this. One of the main things is that if you're looking at a bone overall, the microstructure is really going to influence what that's looking like. One of the things that I'm most interested in is the fact that microstructure is an excellent record of life history. You can learn things about how old somebody was, what kind of biomechanics and loading and movement they were doing throughout their life. You can learn things about metabolism and other aspects of their life. And so all of these kinds of different things that you can learn have applications from evolutionary biology all the way through to clinical medicine. And then the last thing, which is kind of more directly related to what I'm presenting on today, is the fact that there are applied methods that you can use in fields such as forensics and bioarchaeology, where when we encounter skeletal remains, we're interested in things like how old was somebody when they died, or in this particular context, are these bones even human? So if you have whole bones, it's not hard to do that. An osteologist should be able to tell you if something's human or not. But when you have highly fragmented remains, that's not gonna work. So we need other approaches. So we tend to look at a variety of different kinds of microstructure. I'm only going to concentrate really on remodeling and a couple of things that you see in non-humans. Remodeling is essentially the way that your skeleton maintains itself throughout life. And what you end up with are kind of these circular-ish features that are called secondary osteons that accumulate as you get older, and so there's more and more of them. When you're looking at other species, there's a few things that really jump out. One of them is a feature called plexiform bone. It has what's described as kind of a brick wall appearance. It's got long, kind of that squarish off shape. You don't see that in humans. The other thing that you see is osteon banding. So those circular structures, usually you have 5 or more of them in a row. You'll have multiple rows, and these are also really typical of non-human. What happens when you see this is that you know that you have something non-human. But unfortunately, we don't have any conclusive data to point to a human bone. So really what we have for the most part is exclusionary data. We can tell you something's non-human, but if we don't have these features, we're like, it's a bone. So we need a couple of other approaches that we can use to kind of look at this. And unfortunately, most of the time, it's a bone is what you end up with. Because when you have really heavily remodeled tissue, it all kind of starts to look the same. You have a really dense kind of collection of all of these osteons. And so here you have a non-human and a human image. They don't look all that different. And this is because remodeling is really similar across species. It kind of happens in the same way, so the end results are really similar. You can do quantitative analysis. People have measured the shape and size of these and used discriminant functions to sort of say, okay, this is human, this is not human. But you have to have a large enough sample, you have to collect enough osteons, you have to have enough bone area. And so we decided to kind of take a slightly different approach to this to see if there was something else in this densely remodeled bone that we could use to distinguish species. And so we looked at what are called osteon morphotypes. So like I said, for the most part, they're kind of circular-ish structures, but you can see there's a whole bunch of different shapes that they actually take. And so we have looked at a variety of them, mostly in relationship to how those things change with age, but we found, anecdotally observing, that one particular morphotype seemed to be kind of weird and much more prevalent in humans than other species, and that is the drifting osteon, which is all the way on the edge of the screen. Drifting osteons are originally called waltzing osteons, which I think sounds a lot cooler. But drifting osteons, from what we could tell, appeared to happen a lot more frequently in humans. We dug through the literature. There was a couple of obscure references that also were like, yeah, this seems to be the case, but nobody had done any sort of quantification. So we gathered 314 slides representing 25 different mammalian species. We concentrated on mammals because birds, reptiles, the bone structure gets a little different. And so we looked at a pretty large sample of humans. We looked at a decent sample of non-human primates, primarily things like chimps, and then a lot of other non-primate non-humans. And so what we did was we counted all of the drifting osteons, and then we also, in a subset of that, counted all of the remodeling to see what the percentage of remodeling total was formed by drifting osteons. And what we found was, yes, humans have way more drifting osteons than almost any of the other species that you look at, with one caveat. Non-human primates also have a lot of remodeling. And so what this tells us, or at least suggests to us, and we haven't fully explored, is the fact that maybe there's something in our evolutionary lineage when primates were diverging from other species that has led to this kind of drifting osteon thing. We're still kind of exploring that. That's one of the things that was kind of a side result of this study. But kind of the big takeaway was we developed a decision tree model to kind of determine if you're looking at a human bone or not a human bone. And so the first thing was to decide, are you looking at a rib or a long bone, so one of the bones in your arms and legs? We only looked at those because other bones, like skull bones, for example, have very different patterns, and most of the fragments that confuse people are long bones and ribs. If that is the case, are you in an area that has a lot of primates? Generally speaking, forensic cases in the States, you're not likely to get a lot of other primates roaming around, so it's not usually going to be a concern that you're going to confuse something with a non-human primate. The other things when it comes to actually quantifying is the fact that do you have 2 or more drifting osteons present, and then of that quantification, is at least do those drifting osteons form 1% or more of the total osteons that you've counted? If the answer to all of these questions is yes, then you can say that you have a human fragment. And so this is essentially the first method that's been published that can conclusively identify a bone fragment as human rather than excluding it as non-human. And then the very last thing that I'm going to mention is that we're kind of hoping to expand on this. So we're interested in looking at these morphotypes in other species as well as those relationships with age. One of the things that we're also interested in is age particularly. We know that in humans, drifting osteons become less common as you get older, so we don't know if that came into play with some of the samples that we were looking at. And then the last thing is to kind of increase the number of elements that we're looking at. Like I said, we did long bones and ribs. One of the things that we're doing in my lab now is these are all cross-sections from different bones of the same individual, and we're trying to see how much variation there is across bones within individuals. That's it.
Wow. Thank you, Professor Dominguez. Have you ever heard so much pertinent and new and exciting knowledge in 42 minutes? This is amazing. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our 6 speakers that are here and our 2 speakers on the video. However, don't go home yet. You have the opportunity. There's this beautiful video of the other 85 things that have been submitted. Or 86 if you have 6 presentations. Here of the other 86 things that have been submitted, and probably also of the 6 things that have been presented here. 92 slides of many more slides, 92 examples of amazing Lehman scholarship, which you can now watch on the video screens. It will be coming up soon. Or if you absolutely have to go and you can't watch it now, a link will be sent to you shortly, and then you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. Thank you, everybody.
Vanessa Arce, Leonard Lief Library. David Badillo, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Latin American and Latino Studies. Diana Baripaglia, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater and Dance. Renato Guini Betiol, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Mathematics. Jonah Brucker Cohen, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Journalism and Media Studies. Mia Budescu, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Psychology. Mila Burns, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Latin American and Latino Studies. Benjamin Burton Pye, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Chemistry. Claudia Case, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater and Dance. Nicole Seelig, Leonard Lief Library, Department of English. Haiping Cheng, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Biological Sciences. Eugene Chudnovsky, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Physics and Astronomy. Peggy Connor, School of Health Science, Human Services and Nursing, Department of Speech Language Hearing Sciences. Joseph Dobbin, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of History. John DeLooper, Leonard Lief Library. Melissa Derry, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Chemistry. Victoria Dominguez, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Anthropology. Gina Dominique Hersey, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Art. Martin Downing, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Psychology. Susan Dumais, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Sociology. Evelyn Duran Urrea, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Languages and Literatures. Dana Ethan, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Health Promotion and Nutrition Services. Jacob Eubank, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Exercise Sciences and Recreation. Harriet Fain, School of Education, Department of Counseling, Leadership, Literacy, and Special Education. Catherine Fisher, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Art. Brittany Fox Williams, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Sociology. Julio Gallego Delgado, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Biological Sciences. Alicia Galvez, School of Art and Humanities, Department of Latin American and Latino Studies. Melissa Garcia, School of Education, Department of Early Childhood and Childhood Education. Carmen Glover, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. Tailisha Gonzalez, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Health Equity Administration and Technology. Mira Goral, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Speech Language Hearing Sciences. Stephen Holoquist, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Psychology. Jennifer Jolly, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater and Dance. Sharon Jordan, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Art. Daniel Cabot, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Physics and Astronomy. Catherine Capon, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. Dimitra Karabali, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Physics and Astronomy. Stacy Katz, Leonard Lief Library. Edward Kennelly, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Biological Sciences. Hyungmi Kim, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Exercise Sciences and Recreation. Sarah Kotzen, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Social Work. Karen Kushla, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Speech Language Hearing Sciences. Jennifer Laird, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Sociology. Amy Larimer, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater and Dance. Allison Leonard Kwong, Leonard Lief Library. Martha Lursky, Leonard Lief Library. Lingyu Lee, School of Education, Department of Counseling, Leadership, Literacy, and Special Education. Anna Locke, School of Education, Department of Counseling, Leadership, Literacy, and Special Education. Elia Machado, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Earth, Environmental, and Geospatial Sciences. Jennifer Mackenzie, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. J. Brett Manny, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. Eileen Markey, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Journalism and Media Studies. Julie Mabey, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Philosophy. Justine McGovern, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Health Promotion and Nutrition Sciences. Cameron McNeil, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Anthropology. Ryan Miller, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Philosophy. Francisco Antonio Montaño, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Languages and Literatures. Olivia Moy, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. Melvin Nathanson, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Mathematics. Natasha Nurse Clarke, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Nursing. Thomas O. Hyde, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Languages and Literatures. Andre Oliver, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Psychology. Victor Pan, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Computer Sciences. La Rose, Paris, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Africana Studies. Juan Jesús Payan, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Languages and Literatures. Maria Flokakai, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. Penny Prince, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater and Dance. Ryan Rahm, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Anthropology. Stephanie Rupp, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Anthropology. Maria del Carmen Saén de Casas, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Languages and Literatures. Krista Salamandra, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Anthropology. Victoria Sanford, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Anthropology. Renuka Sankaran, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Biological Sciences. Moira Soani, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Biological Sciences. Evan Seinrich, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Social Work. Christina Sormani, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Mathematics. Thomas Spear, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Languages and Literatures. Naomi Spence, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Sociology. Tanupreet Suri, School of Education, Department of Counseling, Leadership, Literacy, and Special Education. Smee Wang, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater, and Dance. Amy White, School of Health Science, Human Services, and Nursing, Department of Health Equity, Administration, and Technology. Celestial Wills Jackson, School of Education, Department of Early Childhood and Childhood Education. Amanda Wonder, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of History. Eleanor Wurtzel, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Biological Sciences. Devrin Yavuz, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Sociology. Jessica Yud, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of English. Naomi Zach, School of Arts and Humanities, Department of Philosophy. Olena Zatko, Center for Teaching and Learning, Department of Academic Affairs. Liang Zhao, School of Natural and Social Sciences, Department of Computer Sciences.